There are experiences that quietly shape how we feel in our own bodies, how we trust, how we rest, how we relate to the world. Healing doesn't always begin with answers, it begins with permission. Permission to feel, to name, and to move forward at our own pace. Today's conversation is all about that kind of healing. Welcome to Inner Peace, Better Health, a space where we explore the deep connection between emotional healing and overall well being. I am Nazish, and today I am joined by Amy McKiernan, author of More Than a Survivor: 8 Keys to Overcoming Sexual Assault and Finding a Path to Living a Fulfilled Life. In this episode, we are gently going to explore what it means to move beyond survival, reclaim inner peace, and begin living with a sense of safety and wholeness. Again, welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. Amy, before we go anywhere deep, what does the word peace mean to you now after everything you have lived and learned?
That's a great question. Peace to me means having control of your own narrative instead of feeling out of control of it. It means overcoming hardships so that you can be centered again and you can live that fulfilled life. Oftentimes, we get so trapped and weighed down by the traumatic things that have happened to us. And we're cloaked in those experiences. And those experiences, they run us, they control our lives, they control how we feel about ourselves, they control what we allow to enter into our space. And so for me, being able to truly heal and truly overcome those things, that's what it means to find true peace.
Wonderful. That is very nicely said. And that feels important. Like peace not as something distant, but something earned and embodied over time.
Definitely.
Yes. I'm curious, many people assume healing from sexual abuse means forgetting it or moving on. What do you think we misunderstand most about the recovery process?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it's it's not for forgetting it. You hear that so many times, right? You push it down, you forget that it ever happened, you don't address it, and that's actually quite the opposite of what I think true healing is. You know, I think that it's not about forgetting it or avoiding it. It's about identifying with the journey of healing and overcoming, not identifying with this thing that happened to me and that is who I am now. That is my new identity is this a victim or a survivor of this horrible thing. It's I identify with what did I learn from that horrible thing? How did I grow past it? How did I heal and how am I stronger now? And forgetting it that doesn't get you there, right? It's really saying it out loud, identifying it, figuring out how has it impacted me? Where am I stuck? How am I not able to move forward from those things? And then putting that experience where it belongs, right? Giving it a place in your brain, in your mind, in your soul of this is an experience, but this is not who I am. This is not my identity now. This is an experience that happened and I have grown and learned from that experience and I am stronger from it. And that's who I identify as. And so finding the place where those experiences belong for ourselves instead of carrying them like they're our whole person.
Wonderful. That is something very nicely put in. I feel so many people would feel so much comfort from it. It is like that healing isn't about erasing our past. It is about changing how it lives inside us. And that reframing, the way you've put it right now for all of us, can alone feel so relieving.
Mhm. Yes, exactly, exactly.
So let us stay with that for a moment and tell us, how does unprocessed trauma tend to settle into the body, the nervous system, or even our daily decision making?
Yeah, I mean, it controls so much more than we even realize, and that's something that I've discovered about myself over the years, is that even when I was feeling like, oh, I'm healed, I'm past this, and I really wasn't, it would come out in so many different ways. My decision making, what I allowed for myself, who I was in relationships, what kind of relationships I you know, gave myself, allowed myself to experience. Finding that I was really gravitating toward relationships that weren't healthy, because underneath it all, I didn't think I deserved something healthy. I didn't think I deserved, to be treated well because I was still holding on to all this pain and the brokenness. I was still identifying as this broken being, and so when things go, unaddressed and unhealed, you it comes out in so many different ways. Relationships, your work life, your parenting life, your social life, there's it's all deeply rooted, and these tendencies start to happen, or maybe your self-care practices aren't what they should be. And that was something I experienced where I wasn't taking care of myself. I was numbing pain with alcohol and drugs at one point. And, you know, but I didn't connect it. I didn't connect it to my pain. I just thought like, "Oh, I'm just having fun, I'm living my life, like, no big deal," and it wasn't until I could really identify and connect it to my experiences and realize that it's all rooted, these ways of being, this way I was coming at life was all rooted in me still carrying the pain of my experiences. It wasn't until I could really work through that, that I was able to make different choices and choose a different path for myself.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I believe it requires so much courage to talk about. And I appreciate your openness to talk about this with us. And it is powerful to recognize that reactions aren't weakness, they are adaptations. The body has been trying to protect us all along, and it gives us little signals in our decision making skills
Mm.
daily basis.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, for listeners who may not label their experiences as trauma, what are some subtle ways unresolved abuse can show up in relationships, self worth, or health?
Yeah, so, it can show up in relationships, at least from my personal experience, where, the trust, I didn't allow myself to fully trust people. Um, or if, I also didn't allow, um, treatment, like good treatment of myself. I tolerated infidelity or emotional abuse in certain ways because I didn't find that I was deserving of it, of better treatment, And so that's how, for me, holding on to these relationships that were actually not healthy um, for a long time, that was linked to my unresolved trauma. And also, I found, kind of holding myself back, professionally and just in life, right? Like not really viewing myself as someone who was confident or capable, and kind of just being in the background and not really going for certain things or not really believing that I could take, next steps in life, you know, um, until I was more fully healed. And then I found that I could do those things. I was more confident to do those things. And so I really do feel like it comes out in all different aspects of your life when you have unresolved trauma.
I think that will resonate deeply with a lot of people listening right now, because it is something that that's an awareness can be this awareness can be a turning point in so many people's life. Seeing patterns not as personal failures, but as signals asking for care, it's absolutely there. And the way you've put it right now for all of us, it is in so relieving, I must say.
Mm, thank you.
So, your book outlines 8 keys to healing. Without giving everything away, what's one gentle starting point for someone who feels overwhelmed but knows they can't stay stuck?
Mm. It's a great question. One of my favorite keys that I write about is called pave your new path with choice. And I like this key because no matter where you are in your journey, whether you've done some healing, whether you haven't even started, whether you're backtracking or so lost, you can always just either start or revisit this one anytime. And it's all about choice and the power of choice. And often when we have experiences with trauma, especially, sexual assault, um our choices were taken from us, right? They were ripped away from us in such a damaging way. And it can feel so hard to feel like we have power over choices again, right? And I'm here to tell you that yes, you do. You do have power over choices. And it can be small, right? So starting with one small choice that's toward a path of healing. One small choice, and the more you keep chipping away with those choices, every time, every day that you make one small choice that's better for you toward healing, you know? And it can be as simple as listening to this podcast right now. It can be as simple as choosing what not to do, choosing who not to be around, choosing what not to put into your body. It can be as simple as choosing to simply journal some thoughts today, but every day that you make a small choice toward a new path, a path of true healing, is a day that you're stronger. And eventually those choices can become bigger, and eventually that path becomes smoother. Right. And so when you feel lost, just ask yourself, what is the one small choice that I can make right now toward healing? Maybe it's reaching out to somebody. Maybe it is making that appointment with that therapist that you've been putting off. Maybe it is joining that support group. Maybe it's calling that friend and saying, I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. But just ask yourself, what can I have the power to do something? What is it going to be today? What is it going to be right now to take a step on this new path for myself? A path of healing, a path of overcoming and getting my power back.
Absolutely. And that is something that all of us can practice, and it would actually bring so much changes in our life. And, I love how grounded that is. It is small, compassionate step instead of forcing transformation and healing that honors the nervous system. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. It's attainable. It's simple enough and it's attainable. Anyone can do it, right? And that's
Exactly.
all. It's you don't have to be, a master in this or completely rounded in a certain area. This is for anyone to do, you know? So, sorry, go ahead.
And it is not something in which you have to force yourself. And I feel like this will land for a lot of people listening right now.
Mm, that's the goal.
So, healing isn't linear. When old emotion resurfaces or someone feels like they are backsliding, how can they stay anchored rather than discouraged?
Hmm. Yeah, and I love that you said that because you're so right. It's not linear, and you will backslide, and that's what linear is. Everybody backslides,
Mhm.
and when you can remind yourself that the journey is not easy and it's not quick, and there will be roadblocks. There will be giant boulders that you have to get through. There will be backsliding and stalling and all of those things. And just because those things happen doesn't mean that's the end, right? And remind yourself that like, okay, here I am. I'm not proud of it. I don't feel good about it, but what's my next step? What's my next small choice to get myself back on the right track? And taking that time to care for yourself, to forgive yourself for when you're not perfect, because you know what? Nobody is, right? And even the strongest of us have our bad moments. Even the strongest of us backslide and find ourselves feeling like we need a reset. And sometimes you just have to give yourself that pause and reset, to take a breath and figure out what the next step is in the right direction and taking it one small step at a time.
Absolutely. And I love how you invite reflection rather than an instruction. I mean, I really appreciate you offering that directly to the listeners. It is going to help a lot of people. And the reminder that setbacks don't erase progress can feel like a deep exhale.
Right.
It brings kindness back into the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And reflection is so important. And actually, one piece of my book that I offer is a reflective journal. And so, readers have the opportunity to download this reflective journal. And that way, and throughout the book, there's prompts for them to visit it so that as they're reading my story, and the keys that I've come up with, they get to reflect on their own journeys and their own stories. And what does this key mean for them? Where are they? How does this resonate with you? And where are you in your journey? What are your next steps? So it really ties in this self-reflective piece as you're doing the work and as you're reading through the book.
Absolutely. And it has been a wonderful conversation with you. So, for anyone listening right now, carrying this pain alone, who wants to connect with you, how can they do so?
Yeah, so you can visit my website, amymckiernan.com. And there's information about my book. There's information about upcoming podcasts and speaking events. You can join my newsletter. And when you do that, you'll receive a free excerpt of one of my keys from my book. You can also find me on many social media, you know, networks, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. I'm on all the social media platforms. And I'm always happy to connect. I'm always happy to hear from anyone who's struggling or lost, or if you have read the book, how it's impacting you. I'm always looking for those conversations.
Wonderful. So, dear listeners, for anyone listening quietly, carrying this pain alone, what's one question they could ask gently themselves this week that opens the door to safety rather than pressure? Healing from abuse isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning slowly and safely to who you were always meant to be. Thank you for spending this time with us on Inner Peace, Better Health. If today's conversation touched something tender, know that you don't have to walk alone. Healing is possible and it can begin with one gentle moment of self compassion. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and your heart.